Welcome to Collaboration Conversations. I'm your host, Regina Partain Bergman, and I'm excited to have a new co host and group of panelists with us today to talk about collaboration and how you grow your business, change the world through collaborating with others. So I'd like to welcome my co host today, Joe Rockey. Joe is Joe believes that sales will heal the world. I love that, Joe.
That's
And
true.
like me, he doesn't like seeing businesses fail due to those lack of sales. Joe, welcome to the show and thanks for being our co host today.
Well, thank you for having me. And just to give the little bit of background about me, why I believe those things, know those things, is because it's true. So many of us in this country are selling wrong. They break down entire books about that, about why we're doing it. Still the 1960s method, which is horrible. I mean, most example, y'all can think of in your head, you're not getting off this car lot until you buy the car I want you to buy. You're not getting off this cold call until we set an appointment. All of that residue of the 1960s method that exists everywhere. You're experiencing it right now in your DMs when people are hitting you up with those robot
Yeah.
chats. That's just the new technology version of it. It is horrible. It is wrong. So that sales will heal the world is do it correctly, which is immensely different than that. And it's all relationship based when you actually do it correctly, which is how I got Tracy into my life. In my case, in 2017, I created a podcast called Father and Joe. What that podcast exclusively does is talks about the relationship that you have with yourself, the relationship that you have with others, all underneath the umbrella of the relationship that you have with God. So, first and foremost, relationship, I said it just 16 times right there, is pretty pivotal to the show. And that is what's pivotal to life. Because when you look at your life overall, and then this is true throughout human history, it's not about how much power you had, the size of your army, the size of your wealth, whatever. It's about the quality of your relationships more so than the quantity, although that can help, but it's about the quality of your relationships. So, why do we in a sales forum feel that it's a good thing to denigrate and tear people down? That is a horrendous issue. That's something we do at our consulting firm every single day, try to get people to sell correctly. But we're way more nuanced than that. We specifically focused at Elite Business Conversations with business owners that are kind of ready to break up with their business and they don't want to keep doing it anymore. And it's just, why would I want to deal with a consultant and sign up to be with someone for 2 more years as I scale? I don't even want to do it now. Well, we help do this in a way where your breakup is beneficial for both sides. As the business owner, you don't have that grief and regret for the rest of my life going, I've just ruined all of my employees' lives by firing them and hope they get a new gig in this recession. Yeah, well, you don't have to deal with that problem. You also eventually get paid to go away, which is cool too, but that's not the high point. The high point is that all of your employees and all your clients still getting served. So in my world, as I mentioned before, I do Elite Business Conversations as the business. I do Father and Joe as the podcast. I go on the Tracy show, which was absolutely phenomenal because in a lot of ways we were the best kept secret in our world. I go into Tracy's world and then boom. Next thing I know, my numbers go up, everything gets better, and she's helping me take it for a next project. And my next project basically is around my book, Casino Sales Master, as you see written right there. And in Casino Sales Master, I took everything I teach my clients about how to sell and put it in the hardest environment to sell in the planet, which is a Las Vegas casino floor. We all know the house always wins. So what are you going to do and how to make a sales program work when you're supposed to lose? That's Casino Sales Master. And that's where Steven comes in my world because he's helped me set up an entire platform where we're going to be able to give the coaching courses to the next step and be able to have you get just not the text of it, but actually get actual coaching courses presented to you that will help you across the board. And then the confluence of the two, to use a little Pittsburgh Underground River word right here, is that I'm going to be then doing a podcast strictly from this coaching platform where we're going to be talking to the actual people who have purchased this, do one-on-one conversations with them, and be able to do a great Q&A. So with that being I want to start off with Tracy to give you the platform of talk about what makes you awesome and how this whole thing's going to be great.
Well, thanks so much, Joe. I appreciate it. And I love that, we've turned our relationship and conversations right here into a collaboration with Regina. And it's just fabulous and fun. So, yeah, I'm Tracy Hazard. I'm the CEO and co founder of Podetize. Actually, I'm no longer the CEO. I got to stop saying that. I am now the executive director of AI strategy, and my partner is the CEO. So, we shifted that around. So I run a podcasting company, and I am lucky enough to run that because people shoved credit cards at me and started it without me selling anything. So I got really lucky. It's actually almost the anniversary of our 10th year since we started our
Oh,
first podcast. Yeah. It was a geeky little podcast on 3D printing. And I came out of what so many of you probably are struggling with, being a ghost in your industry, not being visible enough, being such a great expert, but no one was tapping into you. How do you come out from behind that? But I had a step worse. I worked for big brands like Martha Stewart, Good Housekeeping, like all kinds of big brands like that, Costco, Walmart, Target. And so no one knew who I was. I really was a ghost. I was a ghost designer instead of a ghost writer. And we needed to step out in front. And when we started to have more of those front facing conversations, the world changed for us. That podcast changed everything in the way that we operated. And now I have conversations every single week, and they're not sales conversations. They're collaboration conversations. They turn into something. And that's how, when Joe connected me up to Steven, we're already collaborating on something really
yeah.
big that's coming up, right?
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. So Steve, why don't you dive into how that connection works?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'm Steven, and I'm the CEO of HoloCo. And HoloCo, it's very interesting. You brought something up, Tracy, that is actually kind of the foundation for why I even founded HoloCo, which is helping people who are invisible be seen and heard. And I do that in a different way. I do that through online events. And so that's how Joe and I connected originally. And that's how you and I connected, Tracy. And that's how, what's amazing is I connected with Joe. Joe connected with you. And now we're building something together. And I think that that's something even that Joe mentioned earlier is those collaborations. Like that's how sales heals the world, because it's not this salesy thing where it's like, okay, Tracy, sign up right now. Here, what's your credit card number? Okay, which credit card do you want to use? Visa, MasterCard? It's like, no, how can we have a relationship that then impacts people's lives? And that when you change it from transactional to relational, everything changes. And so that's how you and I got connected. That's how all of us got connected. I mean, even Regina, you and I got connected through a friend of ours with Simon Meadows. And that's right. Relational. Like Simon and I have had an amazing relationship for almost a year. I just talked to him last Friday. So these are people that I talk to regularly. So just being here, we are not strangers. We actually know one another. And that's why I love the opportunity to even be able to speak.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Joe, for bringing this group together. I can tell this is going to be a fun show today. Lots of value that you each have to share. So let's talk for a moment about that person who's sitting out there watching the show and saying, I don't even know how to begin to create collaborations. I don't know how to switch to this relationship model that you're talking about. What would you say to them? How would you guide them to move forward? What kind of changes do they need to make in the way they interact with people, in the way they run their business?
That is so great the way you phrase that, Regina, because it's a complete mind shift set that has to change, right? It's a shift in that idea that I'm going to get something from talking to you. So I'm not going to book an appointment unless I'm going to get something.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have a conversation that you don't necessarily know where it's going to go.
Yes.
The key is to figure out how to have more of the right type of conversations with people who have that right mindset already. Yes. And that's where I think, and I've always tapped into this, like, I know Joe has the right mindset. So anyone Joe introduced me to is worth talking to, whether or not I know enough about them.
Yeah.
So there's not a ton of people like that who I will just say, oh, here's my calendar. send anyone you
Yeah.
want to it, but
Right.
that makes a difference, is surrounding yourself with those, those people who are connectors to other collaborators. That's really critical.
It is indeed.
It's really good.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good standpoint. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, and to that point with the who, you also have to recognize that you're kind of going to be a filter in this process too. Not everyone's going to be perfect. And it's like, oh, maybe that wasn't exactly the way you thought. But Steve, I was going to jump into the what, but if you still have more on the who, I'm going to let you go first.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Tracy was saying, because I don't want people to miss the power of relationships, because there is a lady that I reached out to on LinkedIn in November, and I just reached out because she had a really powerful story, and it was talking about God and how God changed her life and how she had been a CEO, or not CEO, but just like a C-suite executive at Pfizer. And so I began talking to her, and then it started talking about e-commerce, which is a lot of my background. So I'm helping her. I'm just giving value. And then she said, hey, you know what? I actually think I need to introduce you to somebody. She introduced me to these people, which now I'm collaborating with them. And from them, we've signed big deals. So all it took is one relationship. So I understand for people listening, you're going, okay, Stephen, that's great. It's like, but how many calls is that? How many people do you have to reach out to? Honestly, I don't know. But especially the way that Tracy just said it, if you can find one person who is the right person, who has the right mindset, and even as Joe was saying, let them be the filter, because that happens to me all the time. There's people I talk to all the time. I am not introducing them to certain people if I understand, hey, this isn't the right introduction. Yeah. And that's why when I talk to people, if I say, okay, who do you help and how do you help them? And they tell me, and it's like, well, who are you looking for? And it sounds as if it's a little too salesy, as if like, well, I just want to talk to them and I'll give you a certain percentage or a referral fee. It's like, but that tells me that you're just looking to make sales. It doesn't tell me that you're looking to build relationships. So going, even with what Tracy was saying, the power of a relationship, just having those conversations without expectation of receiving something, that's where the power of the relational equity comes into play.
And that's exactly, you can't have that initial expectation of, because this call, I'm now going to have this much revenue coming in. That's just not going to work. But you guys did a very good answer on the who. And like, sometimes we're going to get in these chats and not like get there. But for the what, and this is where a lot of businesses fail, is I'll just talk to anyone. Like, right? It'll be cool. But the reality is, if you want to be successful at your product, at your company overall, you need to know step by step what is it that you actually do in two different train tracks. The first being outwardly focused. From my clients, have no idea I exist, all the way through the post sale. And then internally, for each of those tasks that are required, who does that? And what you'll really quickly find out, especially for you business owners that are running to fire all over the time, it's because you have a gap somewhere. So really where you should start for looking for the what should I even think about collaborating with is start with your own needs and see what are people out there in this space actually doing. And you just talk to them and say, hey, I don't have someone who can solve my tax accounting equation. Whenever we do payroll, we just kind of do it. No idea if it's done right, but now we have to hire people virtually all over the world, and I don't know. And now the IRS is calling me, so game over, man. So that would be a good spot of looking. And for all of us have different layers along this. I have no idea how to do a marketing campaign. I have no idea how to actually sell. Those are all spots that, like, when I'm looking for who should or what should the collaboration topic be, start with things you actually need for multiple reasons. A, you'll actually be more curious because you need it. And B, it actually will be then like, now I'm filtering this out, just as you would be if you're comparing different, I'm buying supplier A, supplier B, or supplier C. It's just like, oh, I'm finding people who are actually likewise like me. They're actually like me. They're not just, as Steve was saying, doing the transactional sales forcing it on me, but like, I actually want to connect to them. Yeah. And when you come with that mentality of, I want to connect so we can build something better, there's nothing wrong with every person involved benefiting from it. That's how an economy works. Yeah, you know, right. It's what's supposed to be. So that's what I would say for the what, for anyone out there looking to start this game of, well, who should I call? Where's your weak spot? Start there.
That's excellent, Joe. That is excellent. And I love what I heard from both Steve and Tracy also about, it's coming to that relationship with the idea of what can I give as opposed to what can I receive, right? How can I help someone else? As opposed to how can I get their sale?
Yeah.
Who can I introduce them to that's going to help them go farther? How do I connect them with other people?
Yeah,
And the rest of it
it's
will
the old
come.
school, as Joe was talking about before. It's the old school. My job is not to collect a bunch of business cards.
Yeah.
Go to an event and just get a handful of business cards from all these people, or shove mine in as many hands as possible. It's not that. That's that disgusting LinkedIn model, right?
Yeah.
But what if it was to be of service?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
my role is to see how many people I can provide a service to that isn't my service. That is a connection point. That is a resource. That is a value. And when you can figure that out, people will flock to you because they need a resource. They need somebody they can trust. It's so difficult today to figure out who to trust.
Yes.
And when someone is giving you that personal social proof and referral, it makes a difference. But you have to do it in a valuable way, like Stephen was talking about. You have to understand who that person is and connect them up with somebody valuable. It's not like you're in marketing, then you need to meet. No, that's too general. Take some time, have a conversation, build a relationship.
And don't you find it exciting when you get to make that introduction?
I love it. I love it when I get it just happened because we have a network of people that we refer, and I don't bring anyone on my show or into my client base without them already being a podcaster. So they have to know what they're getting themselves into and making sure that they could provide value to as many as possible. So we do we call it coaching crashers. So they come in and they coach on something, and then people get a taste of it. And then at the end of that, I give an opportunity for like, hey, I used their stuff and here's what happened to me. So we had this wonderful YouTube expert who's come into our community a couple of times, and we refer people to her, and I get the nicest messages back saying, this was a game changer for me. This changed my business working with her. And I didn't get an affiliate. We don't have that kind of relationship. I don't want it because if she makes my clients successful, they're going to keep podcasting and my business is going to make money. If I made it transactional, it wouldn't work.
Yeah. It's not about the transaction.
On that question, just out of curiosity, bringing up the whole affiliate link thing. Have you ever do you get better clients from those that were from affiliate lead source or from natural generated referrals?
Natural. For me.
Referrals. I mean, it's just one-on-one referrals. They close faster. They're more valuable.
That's what I mean. Yes.
There's everything about them is just better. I actually don't, and I see over 1,000 businesses because I manage 1,000 podcasters and their entrepreneurial businesses. So I see this. I have yet to find one where the affiliate links and the affiliate relationships works more than 10% of the time. So if you had 100 affiliates, only 10 of them are going to do anything. It's just not worth the effort that it puts into it. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a collaboration that could work, right?
Yeah.
A relationship that could work there. I call them my referral partners, but they're also my clients. Like they are in my system using it every day. So they talk from a much more experienced position.
Yeah. And that's my same standpoint. The way that I took it when Joe was asking that, it's like with the affiliate links. If I had affiliate links out there, I have not seen that be wildly successful. What I have seen be successful is if I build a natural relationship with somebody, if they are in my natural community already, and then they would refer somebody. This just happened where this lady who's a client of ours, and she was a really high ticket client, we're working with her. She just said, hey, I have a friend who does something similar. You want to talk to her? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. So she talks to her friend first. Before I ever get introduced, she's talking to her, talking up what we're already doing. When I get introduced, I just got on the call and just added a ton of value. I didn't ask her for anything. And at the end, she said, well, how do you do what you do? And I just explained it. And then she said, okay, great. So that's what I actually really want to do. I don't have the skills to do it. I know you're already working with my friend, so why not we just work together? And I said, sounds great. But it came from one relationship, a natural relationship. Instead of it being like, okay, look, so now that you're my client, if I will give you an affiliate link and then you send it to somebody and you're going to get 20% if you send me someone. And now, yes, you can. I understand the thought process is you're trying to enable people to basically be your sales team. But let's be realistic. If I'm going out and I'm selling for Joe and I go, well, I know Joe does this thing with helping people with their sales. Do you want me to introduce you to him? It's like, no, because that's not very specific. If I'm trying to sell for Joe, I have to be in Joe's actual community. I have to be in his systems. I have to understand what he's doing. I have to actually enjoy working with Joe to then go create a natural relationship with somebody and say, hey, I hear that you're having this problem with your sales team. I actually know somebody who's great at that. That's not me. Is that somebody that you would want me to introduce you to? But the only way it gets there is it doesn't get there from being the transactional. There actually has to be a real relationship. Like for me working with Tracy is for us to be in collaboration, I would have to understand. It's like, okay, how do you help podcasters? Are you setting up just a podcast platform? Because there's a bunch of those. And if you're just giving me a link so I can get a reoccurring affiliate model, that's not going to be great. You're not going to have great clients when I send them to you because they're not going to understand what they're getting. They're going to think they're getting one thing. Maybe you're providing another thing. So then it's going to be not synchronistic. So I want to make sure when it comes to those connections and collaborations, that is a great conversation that I'm having with somebody who is a great conversation for you to have.
Yeah, and I didn't know I was just going to bash affiliate links the whole time here by starting it. But if you go back and do like just a step back from the ownership standpoint of how much do you put into training your salespeople and them being knowledgeable about your products? And that's going to be about the whole suite of your products. Your client is experiencing just a sliver of what you provide in totality. So you by default, you have all of this, but you're only talking about this. Like it's just a horrible, if you sit back and think about it, it's like, it's not really a good way of going about the process of doing it that way. But
well,
yeah, no,
this
Steve,
is a good example here, Joe. I started my business and we had 10 people shove their credit cards at me, as I explained before, 10 people in the first year. Those 10 people became 100 by the second year, then 300, and now 1,000, and without spending $1 on marketing. Now, we tested a lot of marketing for various things over the years, and none of them worked at the same pace that those client referrals did. So we have a significant referral program. We actually turned it into a program, but it was because we found it valuable. So anyone who refers, who's a client of mine, who refers someone to us, who becomes our next client, they get 5 free episodes produced and credits put into their portal. So it's a real win-win for them to remember to do it. That's just one of the things that you do after. You have to be front of mind regularly. But in addition to that, they want to do it anyway. They would have done it anyway. So it's like they feel like they got a gift on the other side of it. So it really works for us. And that's how we did it there. Now, it's not enough to scale you to a $10 million business. You can get to $1 million easily that way. But you can't get beyond that without putting in mechanisms, bigger relationships, joint venture partners, other things like that. You do have to go beyond that. But it gets you to dial in.
Yeah.
Who's right for you and what's that conversation? When your client says you should work with Stephen because this, right? You're understanding the value point that you can sell easier than all the other things that you think should be a part of your messaging.
Yeah.
Your clients know what's valuable about you.
Brilliant, Tracy.
What I thought was so interesting, you brought up something when you're scaling from 1 to 10. Is you brought up joint ventures, and joint ventures is very similar to just one-to-one referrals. And it's something that Joe said earlier when you're looking for those collaborations is finding your need. So let's say for me running online events, let's say a lot of those people are wanting to either A, they have a podcast, or B, they want to start one. And I'm hearing this throughout the process. Now, if I'm in collaboration with you, I become a referral partner to you. Now, all of a sudden you can scale without me ever being a client because I have clients. I'm actively doing client acquisition. My clients are becoming your clients because we have a whole ecosystem. And that's where relationships come into play. And that's how you scale. So yes, I love the one-to-one, the referrals that you're getting from your already clients. Joint ventures is just somebody else in a similar ecosystem that doesn't do what you do, but they have your ideal who, and then you're just tapping in and they're sending people your way to help you or to become clients of yours. And then vice versa. Maybe there's people in your ecosystem that then you can send to them because you're already in relationship with these people, with these businesses. So yeah, again, it's just don't miss the power of relationships.
And Stephen, you hit upon something that's incredibly important. You use the term ecosystem, but it's really a derivative of the fact that not to bring the whole stain of the 1960s method back into this, is most people are incredibly wrong on how they look at their ideal client. They're looking at through that demographic data. They look like this, they smell like this, they taste like this, whatever. But the reality is what you're saying right there. It's what is their problem they're actually dealing with right now? That is what their ecosystem is. And yeah, my company might only be able to solve from B to D. You need someone who can take care of A, and then from the rest of the letters to the end. Yes, I'm teaching my kid the alphabet, and I'm messing up letters right now. The point being is you need to know what you solve, and it's not anything about demographic data. And if you actually look back, and if you were doing your company correctly, and look at all of your clients across the board, the amount of commonalities behind them is going to get really, really vague really fast. In my world, there's basically 3. They speak English. Okay, that's pretty basic. They all have the problem that they don't want to be with their business, but they want to keep it living. That's the end of the commonalities between them.
But they
And
don't identify that, Joe.
See,
that's, I think, the hard part for people understanding is that they don't identify that. They don't, it doesn't say, I'd really like to get out of my business on their LinkedIn profile, right? It just doesn't do it. Right. And so like, this was my problem early on, is that if I was trying to grow a business where my business was surrounding helping you start and launch a podcast, which we do, but it's not the important part. It's running the podcast. That's really the important part. That's a means to the end. But you don't identify, I'm thinking about starting a podcast on your LinkedIn profile. So I have no way. So I have to have some kind of shotgun approach in marketing that feels icky, that just is really not going to have a high conversion rate in return. So how can I do that? Well, the easier way for me to do that was to make sure my clients who were already podcasting and were already successful in it, were evangelists in the podcasting space, could come out and say, oh, when somebody comes to them and said, I've been thinking about starting a podcast, what'd you do? The first thing they do is say, oh, just go see Tracy. Just go see Podetize. That makes a difference right there in being that person that can provide that. But you're at that stage is really hard to identify without doing something that's so broad brush that it just doesn't work for you. So understanding where they're going to take action and who they're going to talk to, that's your collaboration partner.
Yeah, really good. Because for me, even starting out, when I started HoloCo, it was so funny because I would be talking to people and they would say, well, what do you do? And I tell them what I do. And back then it was trash. Like it was the worst of what I do because it took a long time to like distill it down, which is that's actually a big piece of value. If you're listening, can you distill it down to a 3rd grade level? Like, can I tell somebody this is what I do? And then because mine was way too complex. And then what was funny is they would say, well, who can I introduce you to? And in the beginning, I would say, well, if you know someone who's looking to start a online event, it's like, how are they going to know that? Yeah. And realistically, no one is going to know that. I mean, even if I'm talking to Joe and I hang out with Joe every week, unless I just randomly hear him say, man, Steven, I've just been thinking about starting an online event. And it's like, that's not realistic that somebody is having those conversations. That's why it's important. Put your feet in the shoes of somebody else who is actually in the space that you want to find them. Like, if you're having those conversations, go into those conversations. No one is talking about that.
Well, because Steven, you just pointed out the main thing. It's like, by the time I say, oh, I'm doing a live event, I'm already way down that road and it's too late for you to help me. And I will probably make all the mistakes and I will screw it up and I will wish I talked to you, but now it's too late.
Yep.
So it's not really good to join in at that level. So that's not a valuable stage.
Yeah, and the other part of it is because you're not identifying what the problem is. You're giving them the how you solve it, which is really cool and awesome that you do. I mean, I can't tell you, for both of you actually, is referring people to, it's like, I have no idea how they actually do it. I just know at the end of the day, it's going to work because it works for me. Like
I love that. It should always be this beautiful mystery, right?
Like that's why you're an expert. Go on Tracy's show once. My viewership went up and it has sustained. And then there's magic in what she does. And then now that, to the point where client of hers now, like I said, like this, that's how it happens. And like as what you see, it's like, I have no idea how you did what you did for me. I just know it worked. Like I went from having no idea how I was going to get a coaching course disseminated to the masses to now it just works. Yeah, and no fear that's going to continue to work. So that's how it is. It's like, we don't need to explain why we're great. Like, it doesn't need to come across. It's just, you know what? I hated working 80 hours a week in my business. Now I don't have to. Well, how? I don't know. Talk to Joe. Elite business conversation.
I don't know. Yeah.
And I think that's the key part of what you're trying to say when you say you got to distill it down. It's the problem's all that matters, really. It's, you know, I want to make more money with my podcast. I want to be known. Like,
yeah,
okay,
it's got to be a valuable enough process, right? Like, it's got to be value, right? And a value exchange in that process is this valuable enough for me to seek help for it? And that's the part that we don't talk to enough in our conversation, is that where is that value point? So I know, and it took us a while to dial this in. This is not something when you start your business, you can figure out day one. You're going to take you're going to kiss a lot of frogs in your client base, some that really aren't good for you and aren't right for you. And it's going to be unfortunate in the beginning because that's expensive, but lessons learned. But when you get to a somewhat of a critical mass of enough clients where you can start to make some judgments and understanding, you'll be able to say and identify really not who makes the best, but when they make the best client. And that's what I like to look for. And so we are always looking for action takers. That's really a difference. So our profile is really dialed in. If you have a podcast, you've reached 25 episodes or more, you have a core business underneath it that you're actually trying to use the podcast to lead generate for in some way. And there are many, many ways you could be doing that, but you're trying to use the podcast itself to be a lead generator for that core business. And you're coachable, right? Because honestly, I mean, it's if they aren't open to our suggestions, I can't fix them.
Yeah.
Right? I cannot grow them enough if they won't listen.
So true.
And so that's really, it took us a while to build a vehicle to find them. But we knew that. And so when we honestly, we built an algorithm to filter it and figure it out. Then we figured out a way to reach out to those people that didn't feel icky, right? And didn't feel like that stuff you get in chat. And then we went one step further and figured out how can we give them something of value that they can win from right now without doing business with us.
Yes. Provide value up front.
Right. Yeah. Because the law of reciprocity says at this point in time, when I've done all those things, I've reached you the right way, made you feel good about yourself, gave you value. Now you're open to really listening.
Yeah, and I think there's an important part psychologically needs to be added to that law of reciprocity. You are giving it, which by definition means the other person receiving it. You are not forcing it.
No,
this is not Iron Man shooting things out of your hand here. And I think that's a very big thing that people completely miss in that ballpark that needs to be really outlined.
Yeah. And look, we have this happen all the time. I will meet somebody on my podcast. I will say, I really do think, and I don't sell off my podcast that often, but I really do think that there's something we do that would be of high value to you. They'll have a conversation with my partner, and it's not that he does anything wrong in sales. They're not receptive at that moment in time. Yeah. And it'll turn out 1 year later, they'll be this like, oh my gosh, that's right. Poditize. Oh my gosh, why didn't I start them 3 months ago? And they will get on it. And it will be, I just maybe told them a little too soon and they weren't receptive and ready for it. So you're right. They have to be ready to receive.
Timing is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the way you boiled all that down, Tracy. That was awesome. All of those steps. That was beautiful. Yeah.
Well, and excellent. I think we mistake that a great collaboration partner has something to give. So what I have to give to Stephen that was such a beautiful mix for us is I have a community. I have a nonprofit community called Podcasters United. And in Podcasters United, we're reaching out and getting members who are at various stages. And not all of them are right for my business. So I have to find things that I can give them that's of value for what they're looking for.
Right.
And so there's a fit there. I already know it because I hear them. Oh, I want to run a live event. I want to run it this way. I want to have a course. I want to have a program. I already hear that they're looking for these things. So how can I create a mechanism that filters those people in this larger community and sends them straight to Stephen when they're ready? How could I do that? And so we happen to build a mechanism in here to do that so that those introductions don't have to happen through me every single time, but they happen because somebody's ready to take action and they're receptive to the conversation.
So how did you go about that and identifying that receptivity and that they're ready now? How do you do that?
So we have a 3.5 million person email list, and I am not going to cold email. I hate cold email. I hate email. So I'm not going to go emailing those people without having something super valuable to give them.
Right.
And doing it in a way that there's going to be something to nurture them. So we created Podcasters United as a place to get absolutely free resources, free coaching, free courses, free everything, promotion opportunities, publicity opportunities for your podcast, no matter what stage you're at. That's just what it is. But it's a collaborative group of partners who are sponsors because they're not donating money. This is the difference. We shifted in it. They're donating their expertise and their time to make the platform great. So Stephen's creating an online community in there that is running events, running our courses, like doing all of that. So that's of value. He's demonstrating how it works in the community. They're going to be using it. So essentially they're going to be clients by de facto, right? And that's really fantastic because he has clients he doesn't even know yet. Then we created a newsletter. The cost of being a member isn't a membership fee. It's an email that you receive on a weekly basis. And our goal is to get the people who will actually open it and read it and use the resources. So how many of them are going to click on an article in there? Well, the AI newsletter is customized. So Joe's newsletter will be different than Regina's, will be different than Stephen's. It's just how it's customizing based on what you click on. So if Joe is constantly clicking on how to promote his book, because that's important to get Casino Sales Master out there, and there's articles from great partners who provide marketing ideas and opportunities and concepts and case studies for how this has worked for somebody, and he's clicking on those. After he does that 3 times, our system automatically says, we think Joe and Juliet Clark at Promote Profit Publish should be introduced to each other.
Wow.
And the system says, okay. So now we do one more thing. We do it in a much more friendly way because we don't want to spam that member. We say, hey, we've noticed because you're being watched by the AI overlords, like, hey, let's be honest about it. We're watching you. But because we noticed that you clicked on a lot of Juliet's podcast episodes and articles. And because of that, we're wondering if you'd like an introduction to her. Here's a little brief about what she does and the stage at which she's best to help you. Do you want an introduction? Is this of service to you? And they say yes. Now the introduction physically happens. Or there might be a little webinar, some more information that they could click, which now then they go into Joe's ecosystem, and Joe has that, ability to, or Juliet has that ability to kind of follow and connect with Joe in that space instead. So it gives this multi-level of reception. But what it's doing in my community is making sure my community gets what they need from people that I believe in. Tracy, so I know they're going to be great.
May I just say, holy smokes. That is incredible. I love what you're doing there. That is phenomenal. That is amazing. And I also have to say, we're out of time, folks. We could go on forever and ever here, but we're actually out of time. So, Joe, can I turn this over to you then to run our wrap-up round? Would you have everybody, including yourself, share your final thoughts on collaboration and your contact information?
Sure. So, Steve, I'm actually going to let you kick it off here, and I'll go last.
Okay. So, my final touch point when it comes to collaboration is don't be afraid of talking to people. First and foremost is to actually have collaborations to build relationships. You got to go talk to people. So don't be afraid to reach out to some people on LinkedIn if that's how you're doing it. Do it the right way. So go learn from somebody how to do it the right way. Don't spam your goods and services. Actually try to build a real relationship.
Yeah.
Hey, Tracy, I just listened to this episode you just aired, and I love the points where you talked about this, and this. Don't ask for anything else. Literally build a relationship. And maybe they won't respond on the first one, but just keep adding value through actually listening and partaking in what they do. Then once you do get on a call, is you're not asking for a sale, you're not asking for referrals, you're not asking for anything. You're honestly just there to get to know that other person. And once you understand who they are, the best thing to do is say, hey, Tracy, I actually know somebody who I think would be really great for you to meet. They do X, Y, and Z. This is Joe. Would you like me to introduce you to Joe? And if they say yes, it's like, great, here's an introduction. There's not anything attached to it. If they go further faster, then they can come back around and say, hey, Steven, this is somebody that I think you should meet. Now you're building a whole relationship, a whole ecosystem, because I have not only had clients come from this, I've actually had partners come from this. So I want there to be an understanding that it's not just about one transaction. It's not, because honestly, if you do it for one transaction, you're going to miss possibly the hundreds of transactions that could have come out of it through building really genuine relationships. So that is my last 2 cents on it. If you want to learn more about me, go to stevenpemberton.com. All my contacts are in there. All of my social medias are in there. And I just want to thank you again, Regina, for bringing us all together.
Oh, my pleasure. This has been great. I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah, Regina, this is a fabulous concept because this is a built-in system. And that's what I want to say to you about collaboration is that this is a collaboration in process. Regina invites Joe, Joe picks us, we come on, we're all now collaborating and meeting each other. So she's created a mechanism by which she can have collaborative conversations every single week.
Yes.
Why not build your system in place to be able to give publicity in a live stream here and be able to invite those conversations in a great way? But your system has to really work. If you're treating it like a funnel and this is, I'm inviting Joe on so that he will become my client, like that's not a great way to go about this. This is, you're missing the point of the value that you could be creating here. And so if you build a system for you, that's a part of your daily or weekly business, that is where you're going to get the most value for collaboration, is build it in as a part of your job.
Yes. Absolutely.
So you can reach me at podetize.com. There's an inquiry button. You're going to get my fabulous husband and partner, Tom. And he's the best to have conversations with about where you are with your podcast, if that's what you're interested in. And if you want to follow me and reach out to me, you can listen to my podcast or you can join me on LinkedIn because we go live and do live coaching every Wednesday on LinkedIn at noon Pacific time. So you can catch out and watch us in process coach our clients.
And that's beautiful. Both of you guys hit the perfect answer. Steven's saying that you need to be willing to talk to people. And to hit something that Tracy said earlier, you're going to kiss some frogs. I mean, not every connection you're going to make is golden. Not every referral you're going to send is going to be perfect. So you just kind of have to know that up front. But going into what Tracy just said, you have to have a system. And you have to have a system that's actually going to be successful, followable, and repeatable. So yeah, is it always going to be 100% perfect? No. But at the end of the day, when you create connections, it's like, oh, I wonder if you could do that. And then we have follow-up chats. And the aim, again, is not to necessarily say every person I talk to is ever going to be my client. That's unrealistic. It's completely unrealistic. But if there's like, I actually have a genuine curiosity because I think that this is my problem. I have no idea if it is or not. Like, I think it's my problem. That's where most of us are at in the business world. And we need to go fix it. Then that's the answer. As Steven said earlier, we need to know what our ecosystem is and where we play in it. So then just find like collaborators in that space. And all that really means is that like any other neighborhood, I live on this block, you're across the street, but we're still serving the same community. And so we're doing different things. You're the grocery store, I'm the hardware store. There might be a little bit of overlap, but not really. And at the end of the day, how do you fit into that spot? And who really is the people that are right next to you on the street of your ecosystem to be able to go? And that all starts by identifying the problem that you solve, which is incredibly imperative and recognizing through other people's things. So I am Joe Rockey. You can find the consulting firm at elitebusinessconversations.com. You can find my entire sales system, including the coaching courses, as helped being delivered by each of these two great people below me on the screen. And that all found at casinosalesmaster.com, which is Casino Sales Master, proven system to beat the odds in sales and life.
Excellent. Thank you all so very much for being here today. What great value you've brought to our listeners today. And I can't wait to see what kind of collaborations we can do together. So it's this, Tracy, thank you for all your kind words about the show and about what we're doing here. And it has been such a joy to bring people together and have these conversations about collaboration and then see what comes after that, what kind of collaborations we actually can create and how we change the world through that, right? Joe, your mission, changing the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all have a mission to change the world in some way, and collaborations is one of the best ways that I know of to achieve that. So thank you again. And thank you to our listeners and our viewers for watching this today. We hope you'll come back again and see another show here on Collaboration Conversations. Have a great day. Bye for now.